Hi everyone, welcome back to NABShow Live. I'm Alex Lindsay, and this is Leslie Samuel.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Enjoying it so far?
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
We've been running around seeing toys.
And looking at some new toys.
Yeah, and speaking of new toys.
New toys.
We have Philip Nelson from NewTek.
NewTek with the new toys.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
You didn't bring anything.
You know, the good thing about the talk show, which is what we're going to talk about, is they're all being used. I tried to steal one, and they're like, "Get your hands off the talk show. Just go do the interview." So hopefully, the Commando Strike Force of production team in the back will call up a photo so you can see a talk show online.
So what exactly does the talk show do? Like, what is it for?
Well, you know, for years, broadcasters have wanted to bring in live guests from remote locations. And it's usually been very expensive. You'd have to have an uplink or microwave and all this infrastructure and engineering expertise. And you know, here we are today where there are over 300 million users of Skype worldwide. And so we partnered with Microsoft to create a product called Talkshow, which is a professional, high-def Skype interface for broadcasters. It's a single rack unit device that allows you to connect it to your video switcher, connect a camera or and mics, and go live and take guests live from anywhere in the world. It's pretty awesome.
And this is based on Skype TX.
It is based on Skype TX, so it's a hardware interface for Skype TX.
Right.
And what's cool is through that partnership, some features were added into Skype, even the consumer client of Skype, that allows them, if you're connected to a talk show, the client will stream at a higher bit rate.
Right.
So you can get up to 1080 through Skype.
Oh, yeah.
It allows you to have tally support, because one of the challenges with the way broadcasters have been integrating Skype guests into shows is they're building a Frankenstein's beast computer that somehow they get in through scan converters and all these different black boxes.
Guilty? That was me.
You've done it.
Many times.
And we've taken it into one elegant little device, and with tally. Because in the old way of doing it, some people would have like a webcam somewhere in the studio so they could at least see what's going on. Now in the talk show, you could take a program feed from your show and you're feeding that directly to your guests.
Right.
When you switch to them on your switcher through the tally support, their Skype interface has a red outline around it so they know they're live. There's a talkback feature where you can plug a mic in and have a conversation with that Skype guest that's not live on the air and say, okay, here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go live in 5 minutes, and then through the video return. And
that's key. We've done on a variety of different online platforms. We've done about almost 800 integrations, in the past. And so this has been, my hell for a long time. And
your pain has been taken away.
Well, it is.
And you just got a talk show recently?
I bought it the day it was released.
Nice.
No, I was actually calling, going, so is it shipping yet? No, it's
serial number 0.
Yeah,
I'm serial number 1.
Yeah. Shipping yet? And so because it became, and we've already had a couple clients install them. The big thing is that it's not just one of the obviously things is as Skype got upgraded, it really stopped integrating with a lot of the external devices.
Right.
They just didn't update that part of the library. And so you really didn't have any good way to get it in without a lot of rigmarole, and so being able to now have, and at first I complained about that, but now that you have, when you have a hardware device that you just kind of plug everything in, and someone you can set it up. I have mine set up because I'm mostly actually not the host. I'm actually guesting on other things, and but it allows me to tie all of my production equipment in. So multiple cameras and a lot of other devices that are all
So there's no
tied
excuse
in.
for you to ever look bad on camera.
Well, so what was funny was the first time I used it on an actual show was for MacBreak.
Okay.
And I know that Leo, Laporte, is the host, and he couldn't tell whether it was local or whether it was me.
Nice.
On the quality of the screen captures and everything else, the stuff I was showing, and that's the kind of quality. And Skype has always been very good at using up a lot of bandwidth, but it's very clear that when you hook a Skype TX block up, it's not just the same.
No, it's not.
It's like flipping a bit.
And another thing
I got a question for you around that.
Sure.
Is that flipping, when it says it's going to use higher bandwidth because it's Skype, is that everybody in the conversation is increasing their bandwidth usage if it's available?
Not necessarily,
so it's just
because when you're using the talk show product, it's really just a point-to-point stream. So it's coming in at 1080 or 720 or whatever, And I don't know if you noticed this, but if you can set in the talk show that I want everything to be 1080 or I want everything to be 720, so no matter what the resolution that they're sending, it'll either up convert or down convert to your desired resolution. So it's pretty cool.
So now but does their bandwidth increases as well?
Oh yeah, they have to. You know, if you're doing a 720, you know, Skype feed, you're probably going to need about 1.5 up on their end.
And what if their end is a little lower than that?
It'll scale it down. I mean, just like Skype. Skype will compress it more if it needs to.
Okay.
And what's cool is as your guests are live, I've noticed this on a few shows, it starts out at a lower resolution, and then after it's been on a little while and it's getting the bandwidth, it starts to get, you know, higher end. Resolution. You know, and another thing that we added, or that's part of Skype TX, which is the software platform that our hardware works with, you have a lot of detailed data about what's coming in.
Right.
You know, you can see how much CP usage the Skype client on the other end is using.
Nice.
So what's really cool is how many times have you had a guest and you're like, there's a problem, but you can look at their CPU usage and you can see what's their CPU usage, and then what amount is that of that is Skype. So you could say, quit playing Candy Crush in the background.
But does it tell you that Candy Crush is taking up all of that?
It just says Skype is using 32, but they're using 78% of their CPU, which means they're doing something in the background.
Yeah.
You know, you can, and so you get all this detailed analytical information. So as a professional broadcaster, you can help them troubleshoot.
Now, what is distinct about your Skype TX box versus other? Because there's a couple other players, I believe, that are taking that platform and building hardware around it.
We're way better.
Of course.
Way cooler. But no, seriously, you know, NewTek has been doing live video since live video was started on a computer, since the early 90s, late 80s. And so we have a lot of years of what, you know, desktop video producers need, and live producers and professional broadcasters. And so we've taken a lot of that knowledge from our TriCaster, you know, work that we've done, and we integrated that as part of Talkshow. So some of the things that make us different. We have analog audio inputs. Right. The other, I know at least one of the other boxes is only HDSDI embedded. And so it's like, you've got an HDSDI camera, but I may want to plug a lavalier mic directly into the back of the talk show.
And my whole audio pipeline is completely separate from my video pipeline, and I'm not really set up to merge that together.
You don't want
that output. I really want to keep everything separate.
That's a big one. Another is tally support. I mean, tally's important if you're in live. I mean, how many times have you seen on a show where they're trying to get live and the guest doesn't know they're live?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, hey, good to have you. You know, so with tally, you know, the red line pops up around their screen. They know they're live.
And how is the tally support implemented? So
there's two ways. If you're not using a TriCaster, it's got a plug on the back where you would wire up your tally system from your switcher.
So it'd be a very standard GPIO.
GPI, yes.
Yeah.
But if you're using TriCaster, there's a benefit because we have that IVGA technology, which allows you to send video, full frame video and audio through Ethernet.
Right.
So if your talk show is connected to your network, which it will be if you're connecting to Skype, your TriCaster is connected to the network, I can send the Skype guest through Ethernet, which means if I have an 8-channel TriCaster, I'm not taking up any of those 8 live channels with these Skype guests.
Now, is there any latency at all over that Ethernet connection?
No, it's great. It's designed for real-time broadcast.
With the Skype guest that's coming in, do they have to be on Skype TS, or can they just
No,
use
it's any Skype client in the world.
But how do they know then when they're active? Does it still show the red?
There are features in the consumer version of Skype that actually have been added because of this project we've been doing with Microsoft.
Got it.
It's been really amazing. Some other things that we do that make us different is we have a full a set of video adjustment tools, because not all Skype feeds are created equal, and a lot of times it's bad color, bad lighting, bad webcams, and so we have an auto color correction, or you can adjust your proc amps. We have audio compression, so we have all these features that allow you to really take the quality of your Skype guests and bring it up.
And can you manually control some of the video features, exposure and contrast and those types of things?
Yeah, you can adjust the brightness, the hue, the saturation, or you can just say auto and it'll try to do it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe there's some logo selectors as well as far as the Skype logo. Is it something that stays on or is put?
Yes. You know what? I haven't really played around with that as much. I do know that you can adjust your Skype logo, but I don't
how
really.
It's set up and everything else. So there's a little bit of creative design there.
See, I just leave it default on that, so that's a feature I haven't played with. But one of the other things that's important about this product, like Vice.com is a client that's using Skype. They're using Talkshow with Skype. They have, I think, 7 talk shows. And so there's an interface that you can get for free, and it can control multiple boxes at one time. So if you can have one guest at a time for one box, I could have 5 guests lined up, but only one can be live at a time if you have one hardware unit. But if you have 2, now you can have 2 live guests, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and through one interface on your computer, you can see, I have this guest live on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can make some adjustments, and you can really manage your guests. So it really is a game changer for bringing in live remote guests for your show. And now I heard a rumor, and you kind of alluded to this later, but you're not bringing guests into your show. You're actually going out as a guest.
Right.
So this is from your perspective, not to interview you, but but I mean, why would you need a talk show for that?
Well, for a few reasons. One is I have a very complex system in my office. It's been nicknamed the Array.
You never do anything halfway, do you?
No. It's multiple video inputs with telestrators and stuff like that to teach classes and to participate in a variety of events that I work on. So I can actually run. I can join a convention or a conference from my office. It's actually better than me being there. But what I want to do is I want to be able to integrate all of that, and that's been very, very difficult. And that's a bunch of, if I'm doing it over Skype, it's almost impossible. There's virtual cameras, and you got to fool it into thinking it's a webcam, or there's all this other stuff that I have to do, or if I'm doing it through other things like WebRTC or Hangouts, the issue is it's still like another laptop with some interfaces and everything else. So for me, just having an SDI output, it just plows into it, and it increases my quality all the way across. And so one thing I notice is that every person that I've talked to, now I'm putting a professional camera on the other end of this. I think it's actually a great kind of guerrilla insert studio box.
Right.
Because we use a lot of insert studios, mostly via fiber, satellite, so on and so forth, and they're great. But I think that not everyone can have a fiber connection to the switch, and not everyone can have, and you might be in, like I'm looking at taking the Skype TX box to Africa. We have a school in Rwanda.
Wow. And
put that box there so that when news organizations want to contact someone, we've got a professional setup with professional camera lighting. Wow. And that replaces, that's the only way to get it out. I mean, I have plenty of bandwidth, I just don't have
the infrastructure of a traditional.
Right, but I have all the hardware, like all the cameras and everything else. I just don't have a satellite uplink, and I wouldn't want one because the latency on a Skype TX is going to be about 1/6 to 1/8 of a satellite transmission. So unless you're on fiber, this is actually going to oftentimes be cleaner. And if you've got good bandwidth, you've got this low latency connection. It's not quite as good as fiber, but a lot better than satellite.
Wow.
So I see it really as an option that is something we plan to use a lot. So we're testing it right now, but that's kind of where we're going.
And one of the things that really proves a point. In broadcast and in video, it's not always about how complicated and big and expensive your gear is. It's about the content.
Yep.
And everybody wants their content to look as good as it can, but really all that matters is that you're on screen.
Well, but and the one thing that we found with Skype is if you have a good internet connection and a good camera, and that can even be a good web camera, you're competitive with a lot of insert studios.
That's
a lot of
awesome.
Older insert studios, especially smaller, I don't mean to say it this way, but smaller markets. I think we'd be better off with a C910 sometimes. But definitely with a professional camera in front of this, I think that this is there's a whole market there where you're not just bringing people in, but interconnecting.
Right.
And so anyway, so that's what we're using it for. We do have other clients that we've installed Talkshow for, that are primarily using it traditionally, bringing people into the studio, and that's been very effective as well.
And I'm curious, with one talk show, how many guests can you have coming into that system?
You can have one at a time.
One at a time.
But like I could have, if I know my show is going to be guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, I could have all their contact info in there and line them up. Guest 1, call them. Once they're connected, cut them into the show. They get interviewed by the host. Thank you for joining us, John Smith, guest 1. Hang up. Guest 2, call.
Comes in.
All right, now up next we've got Philip Nelson from NewTek, and so you can actually create that workflow. But if you wanted more simultaneous guests, so if you wanted to be on camera
You'd have
with 3 people, you would have 3 talk shows, and those would be coming in, and you would do like a double box or a triple box graphic so that you and all of your guests could be seen.
And the retail value of that?
It's right around $4 grand.
$4 grand. Okay.
So it's very affordable for what it is, and it's available now.
Where can people find you guys in the hall?
Well, we're actually in the South Hall, lower level. If you go down the main speed aisle, you'll see us. You can't miss us, and we'll be the most packed booth in the aisle.
And online?
Online, it's www.newtek.com.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us here at NABShow Live. We'll be right back.